just to let you know how this will go, we'll open it up, we'll give case summary, we'll get through a little bit of business at first. We'll have somebody speak for the project, anyone wishing to speak against the project will then have the floor, and then we'll proceed. And if you have any questions, let us know. So we'll call this meeting to order at 7:01. Will everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the minutes for our January 27th meeting have been distributed. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Do we have I would entertain a motion for approval on those then.
I hereby move to accept the motions, the minutes as presented.
I can second that. Motion and a second, roll call?
Roll call, Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Toft,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
and Mr. Wing.
Abstaining.
Motion carried.
Motion carries.
301, yes.
Thank you. And everybody has filled the forms out. We will proceed then with the business of this evening, and it's case 1-21-Z, Schrute and Zimmerman Incorporated, 3799 Buxton Road. Mr. Wright, would you please provide a case summary?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This case is an application by Schrute and Zimmerman, Covington, Kentucky. They've applied for a zoning map amendment requesting that one parcel, 413112B050, totaling 5.883 acres, be rezoned from R1 to R4, single-family variable structure, to allow the development of 20 single-family detached structure residential lots and an additional platted open space parcel with some detention included. The applicant's proposing a consolidated R4 concept formal plan. The property is located along the western side of Buxton, approximately 900 feet north of the State Route 125 Buxton Road intersection in the southeastern portion of Union Township. This is adjacent to the State Route 125 Ohio Pike Land Use Corridor as identified in the comprehensive land use plan. The western portion of the site has some undulating topography with a ravine and unnamed headwater to Sheila Run located in the rear of the parcel. An additional 0.181 acres of the site is located inside of Batavia Township across the political jurisdictional boundary and is not subject to this application and may require separate approval from Batavia Township to be determined. The property was zoned R1 single-family residential and has remained in such since the establishment of zoning within Union Township. The prior single-family home and accessory structures were removed from the property due to obsolescence and disrepair. The lot generally consists of heavily wooded areas and varying terrain elements. The land use in the vicinity is a mixture of residential and business district uses. Zoning to the north is primarily R1 single-family, B1 district to the south, west, and east of the site, with R4 single-family structure located directly east-northeast of the property. Regarding development, land use characteristics, it's decidedly mixed in this area. Heavily commercialized areas situated to the south along the 125 corridor. Institutional uses found to the north, along with light industrial uses and commercial office uses along the Buxton corridor. Moderate density residential uses are also located immediately to the east of the development, which is the existing Braxton Park subdivision. Relationship to the land use plan, the Horizon 2030 plan indicates the proposal is not located within a designated corridor. Rather, it indicates the proposal is immediately adjacent to the Ohio Pike corridor. The corridor has been rejuvenated of late through numerous reinvestment projects that have resulted in enhanced commercial activity. The land use plan indicates that land use efficiencies, access control, and aesthetic improvements are priorities in this area. The proposed development is consistent with the recommendations in the plan in as much as it is a single-family residential development and it results in moderate density single-family residential, achieving a gross density of 3.39 units per acre The plan recommends densities between 2.5 to 4 units an acre generally in the single-family residential portion. Monument-style signage, pedestrian network enhancements where possible, and the use of the R4 district to achieve recommended objectives and densities is included in the plan. The R4 relevant regulations have been provided for the board's review. The fire department has reviewed the proposal and has indicated that concerns specific to the development, there are none other than standard development and permitting requirements for water flow. Customary approvals and reviews will be required during the permitting phase of the project to assure compliance with applicable building and fire code standards. A brief review, this proposal will result in 20 single-family home sites if approved, with an additional platted open space lot accommodating dedicated green space and detention and retention features. The proposed subdivision will achieve moderate densities of approximately 3.39 units per acre, with typical lot widths averaging 60 feet in width at the building setback line. The plan preserves those areas of greatest ecological sensitivity on the site, preserving the wooded hillside areas adjacent to headwater and ephemeral streams tributary to Shaler Run. The proposed density mirrors existing residential densities in the immediate vicinity of the project, referenced earlier, Braxton Park, and the moderate density will also serve as a transitional use between heavily commercial uses to the south and larger lot residential uses to the north of the project site. The proposed development will preserve approximately 26% of the site as dedicated open space maintained by an HOA. In order for stormwater areas to be included in open space calculations, BMPs must be deployed in the construction of the basin consistent with examples and recommendations found in the comprehensive land use plan. Such examples would include vegetative plantings, constructed wetlands, bioswales, or other similarly accepted industry best management practices. Additional buffering will be required on the site along the north property line and along Buxton Road frontage. We initially had suggested buffer mounding and extensive landscaping along the lots 14 through 21, but the applicant, developer, sent an email, and they'll talk about this more tonight. There's some existing large trees along the property line, and they've suggested preserving those in lieu of a full clear and regrading scenario for the board's consideration. Initially, the proposal held a higher lot yield and smaller typical lot width at the building line. However, responsive to staff concerns about existing densities and compatibility with surrounding development, the applicant subsequently provided an updated plan which includes fewer lots and a typical lot width of 60 feet at the building line, which has blended well with existing densities and mirrors approaches achieved in other successful R4 developments in the township. Sidewalks will be provided along all street frontages, including stubs to the north and south on Buxton Road. A technical review for the R4 plan requirements. There are 8 comments included in the staff report. Those are basically punch list items involving the material presented in any plan that would need to be provided, including dedication of right-of-way, either a 40-foot half or a waiver from the county engineer, final height and details regarding building elevations, which have been provided, roadway and sidewalk typical sections, which we will see at the construction plan review if approved, detailed landscaping cross sections, again, which we will review, location and details of the monument sign, and an indication as to whether any street lights are to be provided, and the certification and signature blocks on the plan. The action required is in accordance with section 680 through 687 of the zoning resolution. The zoning commission is to enter a motion to recommend approval, modification, or denial of this plan to rezone from R1 to R4, along with the accompanying formal plan submitted herein and with any further modifications as deemed appropriate by the board. I do have 8 conditions, recommended modifications if the zoning commission chooses to grant favorable consideration to this proposal. Basically, one is address all agency comments of jurisdictional agency reviews, address the R4 technical analysis provided in the staff report, comprehensive landscaping plan, item 3, which I believe may be discussed further, provide detailed housing unit elevations, which have been provided, landscaping and buffering, again, kind of tying into comment 3. Comment 5 mirrors that because it dictates a specific buffering strategy. Item 6, provide details for the stormwater detention area and include the stormwater BMPs, provide entry monument signage details, parameter and specifications, and address all remaining comments. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Would the representative or the applicant please approach? Thank you. Greg Burley, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commission. Thank you, staff, for the help getting through this process and getting the plan submitted and getting everything in front of you all. Got the plan. Okay. To introduce myself, I'm Greg Burling. My partner is Mark Zimmerman. He is here. We are, both of us are generational members of the home building and development community. I'm third generation. Mark is a third generation, so we've been in the community for a long time. So we're excited about developing this project. One of the things we are going through a rezone through a planned development district in Batavia Township. We received a recommendation for approval last night from the Clermont County Planning Commission, but we are going through that process for the small sliver that is in Batavia Township. Concept plan, 20 building lots, and then the 21st lot is the open space lot for detention. And Corey brought up the request by staff to increase lot frontage, so we increased that to 60 feet and fit our product well. Under the landscaping and buffering, go next, right there. So in lieu of doing mounding and clearing and then doing mounding on the property lines, we felt that, and the property owners, the future property owners here would appreciate keeping the existing vegetation there. There's some large trees, and I'll go to a slide later showing the tree cover there. But we do not need to clear to the property line, so we would commit to a 15-foot conservation easement along the property lines that would be placed on the plat. Language in those easements is typical that you're not able to clear, not able to take trees down unless they are dead. So it is basically a no clear zone, and it is meant to keep the character of the neighborhood, and then also provide buffering for the neighboring properties. To the south is a commercial tool rental. It'll be great for those property owners to have that buffer to the south also. To the west, on the open space, will all remain in trees and keep the existing stream from being impacted. As Corey said, we are okay with the other recommendations from staff. We will submit all the detailed documents needed. This will be covered by an HOA to manage the maintenance of the open space and entry monuments. We will have, as I show, I'm going to have 2 entry monuments flanking the entry to the subdivision with the name, and then I will commit to doing landscape mounding at the entry. It provides privacy for those 2 lots at the entry, and then also a nice entry to the subdivision. On the product type, Christo Homes is our builder partner on this project. They'll be building their Renaissance collection. Sizing and pricing of the homes is comparable to the adjacent properties in Buxton Meadows. So it'll be a positive for the township and for the community. If there's any questions, I can answer any of them.
Good, straightforward. Everybody good?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burley. And anyone else for the case? I'm assuming you were the only representative, so anyone who would like to speak against the case, please proceed. Jen Hickman, the floor is yours.
I am a little nervous. This isn't my strong point here. But I'm just in front of you today because I have some questions, and I'm gonna try to not be super emotional. But why this is extra dollars for our community in Union Township, this is my entire livelihood. That is my driveway. They want 9 houses, 30 feet from my driveway. The plans I had showed 21, this shows 22 houses right next door to me. We went to this city when we bought our house a year ago to put a pole barn up. And we were told, no, not unless we take our shed down, because we can't have 2 on our property. We have an acre there. So to me, I can't wrap my head around how this would even be okay. There's nothing, I could see 4 houses on that property. There was one. And I would say, okay, sure, we can put 4 houses there. That might even help my value of my home. But this is going to astronomically devalue my home beyond belief. 2 years ago, my husband and I, we both work full-time. We scraped every penny that we had to buy that home. We met with a realtor. She met and went to zoning to make sure it was still R1, that it would be sold as R1 if it was ever to be sold. We only bought that property contingent on that. I actually have her with me tonight. We never would have bought this 2 years ago if we thought for a second something like this could happen. I guess I have questions like, what does this do to my property value? The emotional impact, the disturbance of 2 years of building.
That, we can't answer that here, per se. We're simply here to basically view the application.
Yes.
On its merits. We can't speak to the value, we can't speak to any of that. This is already zoned R1, correct?
Yes.
So it could be developed under R1 with fewer restrictions than an R4, correct?
So the R1 regulations would allow 20,000 square foot lots. So what we would do is take a density calculation. I would approximate it in this particular instance. It's about 6 acres. So a 20,000 square foot lot is about 0.4 acres plus or minus, and it would be 100 feet at the building line. But they can also do panhandle lots to achieve that as long as they meet the building lot line. So like an R1 lot would not maybe look quite like this. It may look like that. It may look like your lot to the north where there's a small panhandle out to the street, and then the lot gets larger. But, so based on 6 acres, 6 acres, so if you've half an acre lots, I mean, probably looking at 12, maybe 13 total
12.
they could squeeze in there, yep, under an existing density. I mean, if
And
it's
this is 22. I mean, I just,
20 is the
A
revised
couple of them
proposal.
are earmarked for open space. They're
Yes.
referring to them as lots, but there will not be houses there. If
think-
I'm correct, yes.
Mr. Chairman, the county requires on any platted subdivision for an open space lot to have a designated lot number that's going to be platted.
okay.
And so it counts as a lot, but it will say dedicated open space on the plan. So if you look at the plan that he's presented and the plan that we have, that plan shows a couple of, it looks like the lot numbers might be off a little bit.
It's an old plan.
The numbers.
So it's
So-
actually one lot.
We have 20, this proposal has 20 single-family detached lots, averaging 60 feet at the building lot. They all achieve 60 feet or more at the building lot line, and then a large open space parcel that kind of comes off the cul-de-sac there, that's identified as 13 on the plans. So that would have a lot number, but they can't build on it. So, so your lot yield, 12 might be ambitious. I mean, it's what the numbers tell you. I mean, realistically, it might be 10 to 12. I mean, once you get in with streets and detention and, stuff takes up space, utility easements and everything. So it really is, it's dependent on the creativity of the the engineer that does the plat in meeting the punch list guidelines under what I would call a by right zoning development, which means they literally bring a plat in and say, does it meet this, this, and this? And if the answer is yes, then it proceeds.
Okay, and that would proceed with 10 houses, you're saying?
It could be 10, 12, I don't know, I'm speculating because I don't know
Okay.
how they would lay it out.
And I'm just, to be clear, I'm just trying to understand.
No, absolutely.
And I'm,
That's why I went down the
Yeah,
R1
we-
route, and wouldn't R1, they could take more stuff down.
Well,
Potentially.
My experience has been that you could clear the entire site.
They could take under an R1, that buffer that they have on those red lines, they could choose to eliminate that buffer under an R1.
And potentially site
I'm
lots.
just trying to
to
explain to
build
you
just
that-
one house, but not 12 houses, or what? I mean, I get.
Correct.
I think I'm just, well, I just want to be clear, like I said, my husband already had work obligations. We just got this notice a week ago, so he couldn't change his flight,
I'm
but.
just trying to explain to you
Yeah,
the
I wanna
pros
make
and
sure I
cons of
can-
an R1 versus an R4.
Yes.
The R4 actually protects you a little bit more by those red zones that are gonna be trees that are gonna stay there. So as a homeowner where you're saying you're at, I would rather those trees stay there.
Well, they're
as
trees,
opposed
there,
to
there are
come
trees,
down and,
they're
nothing there.
trees, but they're trees that are well grown. I mean, I'm seeing everything. If somebody's sitting there 30 feet from my driveway, which these homes are proposed to be, I'm seeing everything. They're drinking coffee and I'm right here.
right.
Because the
only
trees we're
difference
talking
between
about.
an R1 and an R4 would be the number of houses in.
So I just think talking about leaving it the way it is and giving me just 15 feet as a buffer is not, in the winter, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. This is not like like pine trees nicely, like he was talking about the subdivision across the street. That is not the kind of property that is right there. Not even close. And I just hope that you guys will take that into consideration. This is not, the buffer that he just spoke about is not nicely lined pine trees, like the subdivision he's referencing. This is very large trees that have no leaves and stand way above this. No leaves in the winter. I have zero, I mean, this is just, I know it's not a big deal to everyone here, but this is literally wrecking our whole life right now.
In the landscaping plans, is there still an open area? Because I know that there was possible discussion about,
Well, if I heard the applicant, what
they want to leave the trees in play.
they want to leave the trees, we had initially suggested because a lot of times when they clear and they cut these streets in, there's dirt they either have to export off-site, but in lieu of that, oftentimes there's opportunities to create mounding and planting, very similar to kind of this building where there's,
Right,
trees
like
that
the
grow
hill.
up and all that. And the other thing, and I didn't point this out, I should have pointed this out, they're suggesting a 30-foot setback to the building line, or to the rear, which, in the R1, it's 40. So it's literally, it would be the difference for people, just a regular example would be the width of one parking space difference between what an R1 setback would be permitted to the property line and an R3, if they were to orient the lots in the same way. If they were to do if they elected not to build a street and they figured out a way to do panhandles, or maybe they did five or six panhandles, there's a number on how many panhandles you can do off of a common driveway with the county regulations. If those houses are oriented a different way, those might be considered side yard setbacks, which reduces that to a 15-foot setback as opposed to a 30-foot setback. So again,
Yeah.
I'm just speculating based on how someone might lay out a by right R1
Right.
development, because I've seen them 100 different ways how they'll lay those lots out. So if, sometimes they'll cluster, they'll cluster a lot here, and then panhandle, and those lots will have one driveway that goes back, and those houses may face the driveway, or they may face straight. It really depends on how they lay that out. through a, either a minor subdivision process, or if they do more than 5 lots in a given calendar year, it goes through a traditional plating process at the county. So with that, if they were to orient those in such a way, they could orient them, and again, it really just depends on what
Right.
their surveyor and engineer lays out on an R1. But it would be conceivable, if I look at this, that you could potentially stack, just depending on the frontage here, you know, the minimum frontage on a panhandle is 25 feet. So you can put 4 panhandles together in 100 feet, and then have another, and that would be, and then have a lot in front, which would be 100 feet, so that would be 200 feet. And then there may be the opportunity to put a couple more lots in the back and not build a street. And it just depends on how they lay those out, how they site those homes, what's front, what's side, what's rear, yard setback. And so the R1 setbacks are 40 in the front, 40 in the rear, and 15 on the side. This is suggesting a 30 front, a 25-foot front, a 30-foot rear, which usually it's the opposite. They'll push the houses back on the street a little bit. So they're actually proposing to push the houses forward to the new street. And then I believe the setbacks will be minimum 5, combined 10 on the sides.
I'm trying to take all this in, best I can.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
information,
it's a
right.
lot, I mean, it
Right.
is a lot.
So what you end up with is at least 10 feet of separation between the homes. And it really depends on the product that they put on there. Some home product types are deeper than they are wide. Other product types are wider than they are deep. But what you'd see on the plan is a building envelope of potentially 25 in the front, 30 in the back, and then 5 and 10, 5, 10. So 5 on each side
Right.
lot line. So that would give you 10 between the homes. Those are just development parameters, the difference between an R1 versus an R4. That's versus what's proposed. So
Do we know the price range of these homes?
I'd have to ask.
Similar to what's out there, what are
Well-
those homes going for roughly?
They need to step up to the mic, sir.
Yep, sorry. Yep, yeah, because on the recordings it helps.
Yes.
250 to 400,000.
Okay, thank you.
And then, do we know if there's any, and I don't even know, again, if this is the right place to be asking this, but proposed way to deal with the traffic? So right now, when I pull up, that's my driveway. When I pull out,
That's not for this.
Right,
The
but I'm
traffic
just showing
studies
that's
have been
where I
done,
am.
correct, Corey?
traffic for 125 and Buxton, every morning, is backed up past my driveway. So if we add all of this, is there going to be something added to help with that? Or we're just kind of sitting ducks anyways?
That's not for.
Not
sure.
you? Okay.
But
So
Corey knows a little bit about this.
This
so-
process, so there's another layer of review. In addition to local zoning, there's a county planning commission that actually reviews. As you heard the applicant state, they went to Batavia Township, still routes theirs to the planning commission. In addition to that hearing, if a development is approved, if this development is approved, it still has to go to the planning commission for what's called a major subdivision review, where they have multi-jurisdictional review. And in that, and we reference that in our staff comments, the county engineer's office looks at the site distance for the placement of the road. They would look at the lot yield to determine if any roadway network improvements are required. The county Soil and Water Conservation District gets involved with water runoff and reviews the stormwater BMPs, erosion control. The planning commission staff reviews the development plan for consistency with the zoning, whatever's approved. You know, they take our comments and then they blend in, meshing that with the county's subdivision regulations. Trying to think what other development agencies, sewer and water looks at adequate water capacity, fire flows. They look at sanitary sewer capacity. The ODOT would not be involved here because it's not a state highway, so the access would be exclusively the purview of the county engineer's office. My experience is it's basically a number. They assign a number of trips per day to each unit that's proposed, that's in the IT ITS trip generation manual. And they look at a single-family residential home generates X number of trips a day. If there's more than so many trips, then they may require a traffic impact study. Usually developments that generate traffic impact studies are in excess of, I would say 40 to 50 lots. So a
Okay.
larger development would typically trigger a traffic impact study. Something like this, a smaller development may or may not. It just depends on the total number of trips generated. Does that help answer that question?
It does, and then it just brings a lot more questions, but yes,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to never in a million years did I foresee this. We just worked really hard to keep our kids in West Clermont schools and stay in Union Township, and this is just heartbreaking. I can see why it's not to a lot of people, but to my property, it is. I mean, this is just demolishing everything we worked for.
Yeah, because the only thing the commission is here to do
Yeah.
is to make sure that they have their presentation in line with what an R, does it make sense to
Right.
rezone it from R1 to R4?
Right, I hear
With
you.
R1, you're gonna have some headaches too. Actually, just weighing between an R1 and an R4, I think R4 gives more benefits as a homeowner because it's preserving a vast, larger amount of green space.
But the green space that the green space that they're conserving is not, it's unbuildable waterlogged property, correct?
Question,
I
did
mean,
they-
I see it in
Did
my
they talk about
property.
mounting on north and south lines and trees?
Where they have,
When we prepared the staff report, we had suggested mounding because of the dirt that would be available and the opportunity to provide that. And what we typically do is when we review that at an administrative level, if that's a condition that's put on, we ask for a cross-section and a planting strategy. And we actually specify kind of a best practice that's been very effective. And I'll go to that. Buffer mounding, installed during the site construction process, so they're not tearing up the
Yeah,
yard twice,
yes.
they're already there once. They put the mound in, we suggest a minimum 3-foot mound plus evergreen plantings at least 6 feet in height at the time of planting, spaced 10 feet on center and staggered, so that if you space them staggered 10 feet on center, they in essence are only 5 feet apart. But they
Right.
create 2 rows
They're
of
creating
trees.
a living
Right.
fence.
So it's a living fence, but the trees are spaced in such a manner that they don't choke themselves out and die.
right.
That's what we've seen in recent developments that have come before
What-
this board. That was a suggested recommendation. You mentioned earlier, you had a slide that gives us an idea of the area, the wooded area?
Well, it's basically what.
Okay. I mean, I got the overview. I don't know what it looks like from the ground.
That is
You
not-
were out there today?
I went out Saturday.
Yeah,
I didn't walk back your driveway.
yeah.
private
You're
property.
welcome to, because I'm and again, I don't even know if I'm in the right place,
Right.
that is so misleading, because it looks like it's this lush, lavish, my kids ride their dirt bikes and four-wheelers through there.
It's a broken down little,
Yeah, there are
It,
big
it,
trees.
it is a lot of newer growth as well.
Yes, anything,
Especially in the center.
okay.
anything shorter than any of you is just weeds, I'm telling you, and just new growth vines. The trees are far apart, they're big, they're very tall. Now, if you were to walk my driveway this time, I have videos of my driveway I could show you.
We're
It
good.
looks like kind of okay-ish, but 9 months out of the year, that is not the case. I would be able to see every single thing. And
We wanna
more
ask
so
the
vice versa.
representative from the development, if they would entertain mounding and evergreens?
Well, I think it's really the board's purview to put whatever conditions the board deems appropriate on that.
We could add that as a
And if you wanted to
recommendation.
have that, and again, that was suggested in the staff report,
Okay.
but then there was another proposal, so I mean, I think that that's a point of consideration to
Okay.
discuss, in my mind. And again, the new growth that she referenced is probably in the area where the old house was, as I would guess. And that
It grows
predated
every
when-
year, just kind of attaches from tree to tree. It's
Right.
just weeds. Honestly, to give you an idea, We've got four-wheelers and dirt bikes, they ride nonstop. They ride through there, no problem. No problem. They're not hitting trees because the trees are far away. There's actually, can't see it in that aerial view, but we have there's tracks in there where they ride, all the kids, not just my kids, other people's kids, I don't know who they are. So that is not, it does look very, very wooded right there, but it is swampy and it's not a dense area
The
right there.
site is generally based on the contours on the plan, they're in the first page, that I would say 3/4 of the site is generally flat. There's not a lot of fall.
No, not until you get to the back of the
To the
property.
back.
Right,
Lot.
exactly, thank you, yes. You worded that way nicer than I am. I am not articulating my words right now, and I am just, I guess at the end of the day, I'm just trying to see what I can salvage of my financial situation and where we're at with this, because it is going to be detrimental to my property. More than anything, I understand it doesn't, literally, Arts doesn't care, Art Store doesn't care, but I care a lot, because this is my everyday, everything.
Yeah, our job is simply to see if it makes sense to
Right.
rezone from R1, which it could be developed under R1, or does it make more sense for an R4?
Right.
That's the only job of this board, ma'am.
No, that makes sense.
So I think we answered all your questions.
Yeah, no, you did.
Okay.
That and then some. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
But I'm glad that you
Yeah.
brought up a preference regarding the buffering zone.
I think that's the only thing I have left right now.
Well, because I instantly had conceived, like, old-growth trees, it would be nice
Yeah,
to
no,
have
it's
that, but
not.
you brought up because they
If-
lose
if
their
they're just a
leaves.
bunch
It
of
was
just-
an excellent point.
Nothing good to look at, then it might make more sense to make it prettier with the pine trees.
I agree.
So, okay. Anyone else wishing to speak against the case? Yes, please approach if you have something additional to add. Mr. Burley?
So, with the recommendation, or with the,
Issue that was just brought up?
yeah, this is brought up. When I thought to put the conservation easement on there, typically, in my apologies, adjacent property owners would prefer the existing foliage that's there. To go in and do the mounding, clearing all the way to the property line, starting the mounding, and then putting the trees in. In those situations, the trees are typically young trees. It takes a little while for them to fill in. When it's old growth, there's usually honeysuckle in there that leaves stay on the honeysuckle for a long period of time, even into the late fall. So it provides some screening. I can go and do the mounding and clear all the way to the property line. I would probably prefer to leave the 15-foot there and then also add some evergreens into the rear yards of these properties. To provide another barrier, it's the lower, and she's right, these are taller trees, so the leaves are further to the top, so you don't get that screening at the low end. But I'm a developer, I do clear sites, but I hate taking big, nice trees down. So I would like to get a plan together for staff to review that would show how I would keep that conservation easement and then also add some evergreen trees in as a screening.
A little bit of both.
Little bit of both. The evergreens would be at the lower, when the leaves are off of the trees, they would still provide screening in your field of vision. So,
The one question that I would have, for the board's consideration, if they do that, would that basically be, just thinking through this, you've got 25 feet in your building envelope, your 25 foot of space between the property line and the proposed building envelope. Does the product that you're proposing allow that building envelope to be shortened so that any additional enhancement or evergreen screening could be planted in that staggered strategy, so that it survives, and then also that the existing vegetation survives above it? So you essentially end up with a double layered buffer.
you have to pull those trees, the evergreens, off of the tree line. So if we have a 15-foot conservation easement, you're going to have to pull those trees 10 feet off of that. But we do have a 30-foot setback off the property line. That's a rear yard setback. So we would have room in that area to do the staggering. If I had to pull that setback to 35 feet, it would not be a problem.
answer your question?
That's
That's right.
That's just for the board's.
That's consideration. That's a very good question. Okay, thank you, Mr. Booth. If there is nothing else from the attendees to come before the board, we will close the public part of this session, and the board will discuss. Okay. Does anyone have anything more specific to add to this? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Recommendations, and then add in that final modification request.
Right, yeah, I think the additional screening, I
What are these, 15 and 15 staggered?
We would we would suggest there's some wording in there, suggest that the trees be a minimum of 6 feet tall at the time of planting.
Oh, for the mound?
Yeah, no, and actually what he's suggesting, and I would not suggest the mound, because the further
I wouldn't
you get
either.
into the closer you get to that
Correct.
conservation easement, the
You're
more
gonna create
chance you're
other
gonna
issues.
tear, you're gonna
Right,
create
you're
other
gonna destroy
issues,
those-
drainage.
The existing
Yes.
tree root system on those trees.
Correct.
go, yeah.
So we would prefer then that we would preserve that grading
Right.
more or
that's-
less, with the understanding that they do have to have, the county requires a 10-foot drainage easement on the backs of lots. So it's kind of going to do what it's going to do. And then if we don't create any artificial mounding there, that won't create the need to go further into that. And then just develop a landscape and planting strategy supplemental to the conservation easement area that demonstrates, if it were me, I would space the trees. And again, the setback, you could increase that to a 35-foot setback and then give yourself some additional room to plant those so that you end up with that staggered planting pattern. I would suggest 10-foot on center staggered. Just because, and I would suggest the type of planting would be a Norway spruce or some
Correct.
other,
Yeah.
not a white pine. The white pines do not like wet roots.
Well, the white pines, the blue spruces right now are a mess.
Yep.
The Norways are about the strongest thing out there.
They do really well, and we've had really good luck with the Norways in other areas. And they form a really hardy buffer. And they grow relatively quickly.
Yeah, they do.
So,
Do we want to specify that specific
so
criteria or just?
if you look at condition number 5 that we suggested,
Okay.
I believe that could be modified because that discusses lots 14 through 21. But I would also, modify that to include the additional conservation easement on the rear of lots 11, 1 through 11 that he suggested. I don't necessarily know that landscape strategy on lots 1 through 11.
That's my other question. Do we think the lot line on the south is going to be an issue?
It's really more of an issue for the prospective home buyers than it is the existing commercial.
They might want, for consistency, have the same on both sides.
And I would really, if in my mind, I would leave that up to the development team on the southern lot line, but I would include that 15-foot no clear area just for consistency on both sides of the parcel. But I would really focus on the planting strategy on lots, on our plan, it's 14 through 21.
Right.
And then modify that rear yard setback. So there might be some wordsmithing on that number
Yeah,
5.
you've got it pretty much locked down a little bit on that number 5.
But then I think that,
If you cleared the 15 feet, you wouldn't need to change the setback, would you?
but I think that what she suggested was that they want to keep those trees on top and then also add the trees on the
Right,
second
keep the
layer.
conservation area, and then
Have a
come inside of
manicure.
A
that.
second
Yes.
layer of,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So we would modify the setback to 35 feet. So if you look at number 5, after the last sentence, you could add additionally a 15-foot no clear zone. I'm just writing this out. A 15-foot no clear zone shall be added to lots 14 through 21 and lots 1 through It looks like they're showing lots 1 through 10 there.
To be determined later.
Well, and I would just have that. And then, let's see, 14 through 21, 1 through 10, and then, what else did they say? And then increase the rear yard setback to 35. To 35 feet for lots 14 through 21. Does that capture what?
I think so.
Okay.
Let me make sure I got the modification. Additionally, a 15-foot no clear zone shall be implemented on lots 14 through 21, and also to increase a rear setback to 35 feet on lots 14 through 21.
Yes, and I would add the 15-foot no clear zone to the south, 1 through 10 as well. And what that will do will preserve some of the existing tree canopy throughout the site. It'll enhance the development, I think.
We need to specify the type of tree and size too, don't we?
It's already, did you
So-
put that in there? No, you didn't you
They-
said at
well-
least 6 foot in height.
It's on the previous page, if you want.
So it's on number 5, but then it sounds like what you're suggesting is they add a condition number 9 it may actually be more clear if you add condition number 9 that says 15-foot no clear zone, 1 through 10, 14 through 21, 35-foot setback, lots 14 through 21. Does that make more sense? And we would just keep that condition number 5 for our review, and we would need to
We
strike
could do it
that.
one, yeah, you could do it one way or the other.
Well, the only thing I would strike, we don't want it to be we don't want it to be mounding. We
No
want it to
mound.
be landscape
Right.
buffering along the, and then.
Strike 5 completely then,
Okay, so we'll strike that all out.
and then make it more clear on 9. So 15-foot no clear zone, 14 through 21,
1 through 10,
1 through 10,
35-foot setbacks on lots 14 through 21.
got it.
Additional plantings, we'll say Norway,
Recommended plantings,
well, I would say additional Norway spruce plantings inside of the 15-foot clear zone, spaced 10 feet on, I put on center staggered, 6 feet tall at the time of planting and subject to administrative review and approval. Does that read right?
yeah. If you have it written down, do you want me to just read what you wrote?
If you can read my handwriting.
So, number 9, 15-foot no clear zone, lots 14 through 21 and 1 through 10. 35-foot setback on lots 14 through 21. Additional Norway spruce plantings inside the 35-foot setback?
I was inside the 15-foot
15-foot clear zone.
on lots
Yep.
14 through 21, spaced 10 feet on center staggered, 6 feet tall at the time of planting and subject to administrative review and approval.
Cool.
Does
All right.
that capture?
That, I think that's got it.
Okay.
Okay, so. I'm going to proceed to try to form this motion then. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and form this motion, if everybody has listened. So, case 1-21-Z for Schrute and Zimmerman. The zoning commission finds that the submitted R4 concept application and zone change request is consistent with the Horizon 2030 land use plan, but does not meet all the plan development applicant requirements of an R4 concept plan. Therefore, this commission recommends the submitted plan be approved contingent upon the adherence to the noted notification specified in this motion. All required supplemental information and plan modifications must be completed and submitted to the planning director no later than 1 week prior to the trustees' hearing of this case. Findings of fact: the proposed development is not in a designated focus district. However, it is directly located adjacent to the Route 125 Ohio Pike corridor. Subject to the following modifications of 1 through 4 and 6 through 8 on the report, with the addition of modification number 9, 15-foot no clear zone for lots 14 through 21 and 1 through 10, with a 35-foot setback on lots 14 through 21. Additional planting of Norwood spruce plantings inside the 15-foot clear zone on lots 14 through 21, 10 feet on center, and subject to the 10 feet on center staggered, and subject to review for the administration and planning department.
I have 6 feet in height.
Norwood spruce, 6 feet in height,
Other Norway.
Norway spruce, I can't read my writing.
That's all right.
Okay, so let me reread that. 15-foot no clear zone for lot 14 through 21 and 1 through 10. 35-foot setback on lots 14 through 21. Additional plantings of 6-foot Norway spruce inside the 15-foot clear zone of lot 14 through 21. 10 feet on center staggered, and subject to the final review of the planning and administration.
And then you would strike number 5.
Number 5 is stricken. So 1 through 4, 6 through 8, and adding item number 9, as in the report. That is my motion.
I second the motion.
Motion is second.
Roll call, Mr. Toft,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
and Mr. Wayne.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other new business to come before this board?
No, Mr. Toft, I would just add, this will be considered by the trustees at the November 18th.
November 18th?
2021 Board of Trustees meeting at 7 o'clock p.m.
Okay. Any other old business to come before this board?
I have none, sir.
And then I will proceed to adjourn this meeting at 7:55 PM. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you for